Hey gang, Alicia with Alicia Cross Training here. And if you are new, I am a yoga instructor, a wellness coach, and a personal trainer. I have over 18 years of experience working with clients and students. Health and fitness is not my side hustle. I do this 24/7. I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. My mission is to show you that you are not stuck and that the foundation of change is your health. And I do that by merging the sciences of exercise and nutrition with the ancient teachings of yoga and Ayurveda. And I hope to motivate you and inspire you and to help you cut through the confusion and the fads that are out there and to keep you accountable and to help you reach your goals. And today we're talking about the 6 components of fitness. So if you're here joining me live, thank you for being here. Say hi so I know that you're here. And if you are live or you're watching the replay anytime, just say hi, post a comment, or post your questions, and I will answer. I will get back to you. So let's start by talking about what is fitness. And fitness is your ability to do something, whatever you want to do. Are you fit to do whatever it is that you want to do? And this comes down to our goals. What are your goals for training? So your goals could be health, fitness, or performance. And that's kind of the tiers they go in: health, fitness, and performance. So if you are training for health, that is great. First of all, that is great. But the definition of health is the absence of disease. So health is kind of like ground zero. Yes, we want to have health, but we don't want to stop there. So Tony Robbins said, there's nothing worse than an okay life. And this is how I want you to think about your training goals. Yes, we want to be healthy. We want to have good health, but why stop there? So the next level from health is fitness. And the next level after that is performance. So what is the difference between fitness and performance? Performance is you have a goal based on you want to lift, X amount of pounds, or you want to, even bigger, you want to train for a competition where you're lifting weights, or you're training for a marathon or a triathlon. Some kind of race, something you're training for. Those would be performance-based goals. Now, we don't all need to run out and have these performance-based goals, because here's what I want to tell you. Anything can be healthy unless you compete at it. Now, if you are running, say you're running for 30 minutes a day, that's great. That's going to reduce inflammation. That's your cardio for the day. It's getting you moving. It's going to give you all the benefits of cardio. Now, once you start taking it past what's healthy, that's when we get into a U-shaped curve. Okay, so taking care of your health, you're riding up that curve, and then you're going into fitness. It has even more benefits for your health, your well-being, and then you start training for that triathlon, and then we're going to come down the other side, because training for triathlons or doing anything where you're competitive, that is going to have negative adverse effects on your health. So we do not have to go out and decide we're going to run a marathon or we're going to run a triathlon to have to be in good health or to even be beyond good health. So for most of us, we are training for fitness. And fitness we can break down into 6 components: cardiorespiratory fitness, flexibility and mobility, I include those together, strength, balance, power, and the last one put together, speed, agility, and quickness. So we're going to talk about all of these, some realistic recommendations and how you can incorporate those into your routine, and if you need it, based on what your goals are. So let's start with cardiorespiratory fitness. So cardiorespiratory, we shorten that and we call that cardio. I think we're all familiar with that. Your cardiorespiratory fitness is measured by your VO2 max, which refers to the ability of the heart and the lungs to deliver oxygen to the body. So that is something we can measure. That is something that is measured when you see the test with the breathing mask and they're on the treadmill, so that does require some testing. But we can also measure our cardiorespiratory fitness in other ways. So what is our resting heart rate? Check your resting heart rate. Average is about in the low 70s. If you are fit, it's going to be in the 60s. If you're an athlete, it's going to be 40s and 50s. And that is your resting heart rate beats per minute. You check that first thing in the morning. So my lowest I've ever seen first thing in the morning is 49. So if you have your one of your activity trackers on, first thing you open your eyes, take a look at that. Or the app on your phone will show you your resting heart rate. So that goes down with training. So it goes up when you're actually doing the activity, and then as a long-term result, that resting heart rate goes down. So you can measure that. You can also measure your HRV, your heart rate variability. That is also on your health app on your iPhone if you have that. And your heart rate variability is the space between your heartbeats. And it seems like you'd want that to be regular, but you actually don't. If your heartbeat is just like steady, like the second hand on a clock, that is not a good sign. You want there to be variability. You want to be very fluid in your heart rate. So that means that your parasympathetic nervous system is strong. If you have high heart rate variability, low heart rate variability, meaning it's just your heart is beating just steady like like a metronome, that's associated with illness and even depression. So you can improve your heart rate variability through cardio, but also yoga has been shown to improve your heart rate variability. So keep that in mind. Okay, so your cardio is going to be steady state cardio and intervals. So steady state, you just keep that heart rate constant. You're staying on, the bike, the treadmill, whatever you're doing, and you're not changing your heart rate. So your speed, your incline, those may change to accommodate, but you keep your heart rate at a steady zone, and that's going to be not as intense. That's going to be more like your 70, 75%. It may even be like 60, 65 for low intensity after a hard workout, if you're feeling overtrained, if you're just easing back in. So your heart rate zone is important to monitor when you're doing your steady state cardio. Intervals. So intervals is that on, off. So when you're doing your interval training, you crank it up for a duration of time, and then you bring it back down and recover your heart rate. Now, you could also call this a sprint. So your interval, that's where you're going to get your heart rate up into that 80, 85, 90% threshold, into those zone 3s, and then you're going to bring it back down so that you can recover. That is more intense, so those bouts may be shorter. So while you might do an hour of steady state, if it's interval day, that could be anywhere from 10 to maybe 45 minutes at the most. You want to use an app like the Seconds Pro app that I use for your interval cardio training. That app is free unless you want to save your timers. Then it's like $5. It's definitely worth it. So you can put your interval workouts in there, and it plays, the beeps will play over your music, or you can look at the screen. That is an awesome tool for your interval cardio. You can also get cardio through Metcons, Metabolic Conditioning. These are high intensity circuits. So you may not like running, or you don't like the bike, or whatever. You can do exercises like calisthenics. Think jumping jacks, jumping rope, burpees, box jumps, anything that gets your heart rate just constantly moving through the exercises. So those are Metcons. That's a fun way to get your cardio. Let's see. And I suggest getting at least one day of steady state cardio. And if you go for a long walk, that can be considered as your steady state cardio. And then intervals, no more than twice a week. Metcons no more than twice a week, because remember that Metcon and that interval training is very high intensity. So you don't want every workout to be a high intensity workout. So that is your cardiorespiratory fitness. That is the first of the 6 components of fitness. The next, and benefits of cardiovascular. I know that cardio has the reputation that it's the go-to exercise for weight loss. This is not true. What cardio will do is it is the best for improving your mood, your focus, your concentration, and it strengthens that part of your brain that helps with, planning, consequences, decision making, that higher brain. What that's going to help you to do is to stick to your plan, to follow through with your nutrition goals, to meal plan as you told yourself you were going to do. And that is how cardio helps with weight loss, but it is not the go-to exercise for weight loss. And of course, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends at least 150 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes of moderate intensity over 5 days, or 20 to 60 minutes of vigorous intensity over 3 days. Okay, so let's move on to number 2, which is flexibility and mobility. Are these the same? No. So what's the difference? Flexibility is how much your muscles, the soft tissue, stretches. Your flexibility is a component of mobility. Mobility involves more than just your flexibility. So your mobility is, do you have the strength to move your body into that position? Can you stabilize other parts of your body so you can move into that position? Do you just have those connections going to the motor unit, the nervous system recruiting the muscles so you can make that happen? So there's many different components of mobility, and flexibility is one component. A really great example that you can see this is if you lie down on the floor, flat on your back, and you raise one leg up. If you can get that leg straight up to the ceiling, that's 90 degrees. Can you use a yoga strap and pull your foot in even closer? How close does it get to your body? Closing up that angle, getting less than 90 degrees. Now, I want you to do the same thing standing. Stand up against the wall and see if you can raise your leg parallel to the floor even to 90 degrees, and can you raise it even higher? Probably not. I'm incredibly flexible, and I measured this on myself, standing up against the wall, lifted my leg, couldn't even get it to 90. The angle was about 107 degrees. I use an app to measure that. I'll see if I can post that picture for you. But my flexibility was just one piece of the puzzle of mobility. And they are both important, but they're both important, but it is important to work on your mobility. So not just passively stretching or just relaxing into stretches, but you have to do exercises that take you through the range of motion that you want to have. And I talk about this with my clients a lot, that you have to go through those full ranges of motion for your joints, because if you don't, if you are always stopping short and something in life takes you through that range of motion, that's when you're going to get hurt. And that doesn't mean just being able to passively move into it. It's great if you can do happy baby lying on your back, but if you can't use your muscles and your strength to get down into a full squat, when something happens and you trip or you fall or you stumble and your body is forced down into that position, that's when something's going to get hurt. So you need the flexibility to move into that space, but also the control and the strength to get into that space on your own accord. This is something we talk about in yoga teacher training. So we talk about the risk of injury to our yoga students. And what we talk about is that what I was told is it's rare that a person who is quote unquote tight gets hurt. It's the person who is really loosey-goosey that is at greater risk of getting hurt, because if you are super hypermobile and you can pull and yank your body into these positions, but then you can't get into them with your own strength, you have a really high risk of getting injured because you can't control those ranges of motion that your body has because your muscle is so pliable and flexible. So it's super important, whether you are tight or you are loosey-goosey, that you're working on your mobility, which means strength in those end ranges of motion, so you can get there on your own. And this is a big part of why I don't push people into stretches in yoga, because if you are just so tight that you can't go there, I probably can't push you there. Your muscles are stronger than I am, so I can't push you there. If you are loose and pliable and I can push you there, that doesn't matter. I'm not helping you. You need the strength to move yourself there. So I'm not doing you any favors if I'm pushing you into a stretch, and that's one of the big reasons why I do not do that in my yoga classes. I think doing something like Thai massage is fantastic, but I think that should be your goal. You should be going and getting somebody to move you into those stretches. But if you're in yoga, there's much more happening than just stretching, physically, emotionally, energetically, mentally, all of the things. And I'm not helping you do that if I'm pushing you into a stretch. You can also work on your mobility and your flexibility with self-myofascial release. This is foam rolling, or using a lacrosse ball. The American College of Sports Medicine, the ACSM, recommends flexibility at least 2 to 3 days per week. And the NASM, who I'm certified through for my personal training and my nutrition coaching, and also my corrective exercise, which this was all about, flexibility and mobility, suggests that stretching flexibility can be trained daily. And as a matter of fact, when they studied hamstring flexibility improvements, it needed to be done every day for 6 weeks. So if that's something you're really working on, it's got to be done daily. Stretches can be held for 20 to 30 seconds, 60 seconds if you're 65 or older. Hello, 65 or older, you are my people, so set that timer, 60 seconds to hold your stretches. And I had a student who went to the Myofascial Release Institute, I believe in New York, and they said you got to hold those stretches for 3 to 5 minutes to get into the fascia. And, I talk about fascia a lot. let's see. So you can use your lacrosse ball, your tiger tail, your Theracane, your foam roller, use all of those things for self-myofascial release. I actually like that after strength training. But that can be done anytime. It doesn't have to be in coordination with a workout. You can do that standalone. And then I really love some stretches after cardio. So on that first component we talked about, after cardio, when you're feeling nice and warm and pliable, that's a great time to work on your flexibility. And of course, if you're taking yoga, you are getting that flexibility work in your yoga class. Mobility work that kind of happens part of your strength training routine. So if you're dropping down into that full squat, if you are bringing your shoulders into full range of motion, if you're stabilizing through your core, that mobility work is happening. There can be some specific drills that you need to work on, but it is part of your strength training that's happening, especially in the TRX that we have been doing in the TRX semi-private training. That's awesome for mobility through the whole body, the hips, the shoulders especially. Let's see. Okay, so that is mobility and flexibility. Part 3 is strength. So strength is the ability of your neuromuscular system, your nervous system and your muscular system, to produce internal tension to overcome an external force. So you are strength training all day long because the external force that you have acting on you is gravity. It's the amount, strength is also the amount of force that a muscle can exert against an external load. So this is what we think of as strength training. Strength training can be with your body weight. It can be against gravity. Think of holding a plank. It can also be done with weights, preferably free weights. It can also be done with bands. You know, I love the monster bands. It can also be done, the TRX, that's moving your body weight. When you change the angle of your body, it changes the amount of weight that you're lifting. So strength training can be with weights, but does not have to be. Bands, monster bands, TheraBands, kettlebells, all of these things. Strength is dictated by the ability of the nervous system to recruit and activate muscles. So if you have this big, strong muscle, but your brain has just forgotten that you have it, then it doesn't matter. So you need to make that connection to your muscles. If you are new to training, that first 12 to about 12 weeks is dedicated to retraining the nervous system, to finding those muscles again. And if you are not training consistently, it's not going to happen. That's why it's super important to get into a consistent routine when you start working out. So that's 2-3 days a week. If you're just working out 1 day a week, you're not going to make any progress. And this is why I always say, it's like your first workout. Every workout's like your first workout because you're not making any progress, you're not feeling it, and you are not giving your body a reason to make changes, and then you're just chronically sore all the time because it's always something new. So you have to have that consistency to train the nervous system. This is also my favorite component of health and fitness, or of fitness, and big reason because it does work on everything else. So if you're strength training, through that full range of motion, you're going to work on your mobility. If you are strength training in a circuit style, or especially if you're using kettlebells, you are going to get some cardiovascular fitness. So strength is super important. Most of us, we don't work enough on strength. A lot of you have this notion in your mind that you don't need to strength train, or strength training with weights is unnecessary. But remember, you are strength training all day long against gravity, and gravity is that force that's bringing your shoulders up, it's bringing your head forward, it's rounding your back. So you need to do some strength training to combat that. And if you're doing Pilates and yoga, great, but you're just encouraging this. So this is your crunching motion. You're down on the floor doing planks and push-ups and chaturangas. You have to have something external like the TRX, like a band, like a weight, so that you can do some exercises for your back to improve your posture. And that's going to re-strengthen those stretched out, underused back muscles, and it's going to stretch and open your chest, which is tight and overused. And that's going to make you look better and feel better. So strength, if nothing else, strength, work on that. So you can have endurance and stability in your strength. So think of holding that plank for a long time or doing a lot of reps. You can work on your hypertrophy, which is size. So again, this is going to be a lot of repetitions to work on size. You can work on your max strength, and this is what I work on with some of my private clients. So where they're working on hitting like a 1 rep max. And so this max strength is going to be lower reps, like 1, 3, 5, and that is 85% and above. Now, when we're in this 85% and above with strength training, this is like interval work because you're on for a couple of reps and then you sit down and rest. So the benefits that you get from that are, from the max strength training, are similar to what you would get for the cardiovascular training. So the max strength training is really great for things like anxiety. And you can also work on just strength in general, where you are working like 10, 12, 15 reps. I do this a ton in my semi-private training classes. This is the rep range that we're working on. So that's great for building strength, building endurance, seeing some results in your body. And we're constantly moving from one exercise to the next. We're supersetting, so we're pairing an upper body and a lower body exercise, or we're doing a tri-set where we'll have 3 exercises together. So we're constantly moving. So they're sweating, you're getting your heart rate up, so you're getting a little bit of that cardiovascular in an endurance sense when we are also strength training in this circuit style. Max strength. Okay, and strength training builds your bone density, it builds lean muscle mass, and that doesn't necessarily mean size, you're just increasing your muscle mass, and that is crucial to maintaining your body weight, especially as you age, because around 40, even earlier, we can start to lose about 8% of our lean muscle per decade, and that slows down the amount of calories we burn throughout the day, and that's why we have this little steady creep of weight gain throughout our life. So you have to strength train. Again, if you think that it's just kind of frivolous or vain to train with weights, you're wrong. You need to start lifting those weights now if you haven't already, because you need to maintain and replace the muscle mass that you've naturally lost with age, just becoming, frail and weak and deteriorating. So we need to prevent that with strength training. If you are working towards losing weight, again, cardio is not your go-to exercise. Diet, number one, first and foremost, but then it's going to be strength training. That is the bottom of your pyramid for losing weight, so strength training. Let's see. Strength training can lower the risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes. It helps prevent falls. It helps to lower blood sugar. Studies have shown that better leg strength correlates to longevity and brain health. There's also some studies that show grip strength correlates to longevity and cognitive function. So strength, we are definitely finding, is super important to quality of life and your longevity. If you have low back pain, if you have pain in your knees or your shoulders, again, you can't just foam roll that out. Foam rolling can be a component of your recovery, but you've got to strength train to wake up those muscles that are weak, whether it's your core or your glutes, so that you're not feeling pain in your back or your knees, or maybe you got to improve your posture so that your shoulders aren't hurting. Strength training, the ACSM recommends adults strength train 2 to 3 days per week, and that goes right along with my recommendation of at least 2 days. All right, so let's move on to, so we did cardiovascular fitness, we did strength, and did we miss one? Cardiovascular, strength, fitness and flexibility and mobility, and then number 4, balance. So balance is your ability to maintain your center of gravity over a base of support. Balance is both static, standing still, think of holding a yoga pose, and it's dynamic. So can you walk and get in and out of a chair or flow through a vinyasa yoga class without falling over? And life is movement. So if you're only practicing standing still balances, you need to add some dynamic balance to that. Balance comes from 3 systems. Visual from your eyes, proprioceptive, so these are receptors in your skin, muscles, tendons, and joints that perceive where you are in space, and vestibular, so in your ear. So those are your 3 systems of balance. I am highly reliant on my visual system. So even if I'm standing still in mountain pose and I close my eyes, I get wobbly. So if I want to work on that, I need to practice more standing, static poses with my eyes closed, as well as dynamic, which I do that. I try to walk on a tightrope walking, heel to toe, with my eyes closed without falling over, or even just trying to stand still in tree pose with my eyes closed. Those are very challenging for me. So, but only try that option, one, if you already have balance with your eyes open. If you can't balance with your eyes open, it's no point adding eyes closed, and you need to make sure that you're safe if you're trying some eyes closed balance. So be aware of your surroundings, or have somebody with you, have a hand on something to be safe so that you know you're okay. So vestibular, if you've had some kind of ear infection or something going on with your sinuses, that throws off your balance because that system is in your ears. So the brain takes in this information from these three systems and helps you to maintain balance. This is why you want to pick a focal point when you're balancing rather than looking around. So a proprioceptive challenge, that's when you use something like the Bosu ball, or sometimes I have you roll your mat up 2 or 3 times because that unstable surface makes more of a challenge for your balance. That's a proprioceptive challenge. So it's challenging those receptors in your body to perceive where you are in space and make those adjustments. Let's see, proprioceptive. So of course balance is important because we want to prevent falls. So falls cause more than 32,000 deaths each year. Fall injuries are the leading cause of death in people over the age of 60. A woman in her 60s who breaks a hip is now 5 times more likely to die in the next 12 months. So this is life-threatening. This is, serious stuff. Fall and break a hip, you're stuck inside, you lose that social connection, you're not able to work out, you lose the ability to move your body, and it just becomes this downhill snowball effect. Elderly in long-term care facilities are just as likely to fall during standing and getting into or out of bed as walking. 40% of falls are caused by incorrect weight shifting and excessive sway during standing. So things that can be trained, things that you can work on. And again, another reason why I love strength training, because if we're strength training with free weights or with bands or with body weight, we're working on our balance. Another reason why I say please don't go to the gym and sit on a machine to work out. Don't sit on the leg curl or the leg press. Please don't do abs on a machine. Don't do shoulder presses on a machine. You need to stand up so that you're working on your balance, your core, your proprioception, rather than just sitting there on a chair in a machine that's balancing for you while you're working out. So how much do you need? The ACSM recommends 2 to 3 days, 20 to 30 minutes per day. Exercises should involve balance, agility, coordination, and gait. You can also do Tai Chi and yoga to improve your physical function and to prevent falls. Okay, so let's move on to number 5, power. So power is the ability to produce maximal force in minimal time, or strength times speed. So we already talked about strength, overcoming forces, resisting forces, and power is that times speed, so doing that quickly. Let's see. Power is not required for general health goals. This is kind of the next level. Now we're moving into more fitness or performance-based aspects. So power with the barbell, that equates to the Olympic movements of the snatch and the clean and jerk. So if you have watched the Olympic weightlifting, that's it. It's 2 movements, the snatch and the clean and jerk. This is where the bar goes from the floor to overhead. There's 2 different movements where that happens. That is the competitive sport known as weightlifting. It is an Olympic event. So when we are kind of casually using the word weightlifting to go to the gym, sure, that's kind of what we say, but just know that weightlifting is a sport and it is only 2 events. It is the snatch and the clean and jerk. There is also a competitive sport of, okay, this is where it's going to get confusing, of lifting. Now the squat, the deadlift, and the bench press are called powerlifting. And even though they're called powerlifting, those are not power movements. Those are the classic strength training movements. I know that's confusing. But if we are, with my clients who are strength training and they're training heavy, we are doing these powerlifting movements. So squat, deadlift, and bench press. The only thing that's not included in there is the overhead press. And that is part of my training, but it's not a competitive movement because it's so easy to cheat because you can lean back and it looks more like a bench press than an overhead press. So weightlifting refers to snatch and clean and jerk. Powerlifting is the strength training movements of deadlift, bench press, and squats. Okay. So other examples that include power movements are strongman and strongwoman competitions. So think of things like keg tosses, tire flips. I just did some tire flips on my Instagram and Facebook video that I posted a couple of days ago. Tire flips. Boxing requires both power, which is speed and strength. Other sports like football, track and field, basketball, rowing, they will all benefit from power movements like the Olympic lift, because those movements are combining strength and speed, which will translate into their sport. Kettlebells, plyometrics, all of these things are power movements. Again, you can see how these power movements are not necessary for health, even general fitness goals, just depending on where you're at, but they can be essential to sports and performance. Even if you're running a race, you need to be able to produce that power. Power is done in high volume to increase your cardiorespiratory fitness. So imagine doing 30 kettlebell swings. You are going to be breathless. And that's really great because a lot of stuff could be high impact with something like a kettlebell swing. Can be a way to get your heart rate up, but there's no impact on the body. It's a great way to release some stress, especially if you're doing some medicine ball slams. Again, you'll get your heart rate up with that. These movements can be very haphazard, but there is a lot of technique that goes into them. So it's important that you have a really good foundation of strength and core strength and balance before attempting these power movements. You don't come off the gate starting with power movements. You have to have that foundation of strength and core, and also some mobility, especially if you're doing things like the Olympic lifts. You've got to have mobility through your shoulders, your knees, your hips, your ankles, so that you do it properly and don't get hurt. All right, so that is power. Again, there's no real recommendations on these because that is not required for general health. So this can be something that's part of your Metcon, working on your cardiovascular fitness. So the last component is speed, agility, and quickness. Speed is the ability to move in one direction as fast as possible. Quickness is explosive. So speed, you can get a running start before taking off into a sprint. Speed is that explosive movement right out of the gate. And then agility is the ability to change directions quickly while in motion. So this agility requires deceleration, stabilization, changing directions, and accelerating. Agility requires quickness. Quickness requires speed, and these skills overlap. Often you can't train one without training the other, and this helps to improve your nervous system's efficiency, the recruitment of your motor neurons. So again, your nervous system controlling your muscles, and just that synchronization so everything is flowing. Agility is going to be important because this is how we move in life. Something suddenly is going to grab our attention, or we're going to make a sudden move. Our dog is going to pull us out into the street. We're going to drop something and reach for it. We're going to trip off of a curb and have to catch ourselves. So agility is something that we want to work on. But again, you want to have that. You want to have a little bit of a foundation before you jump into these movements of agility, making sure your body can move in these directions before you try to quickly change directions. Athletes absolutely need to be able to train and respond and react and move directions. Great training for speed is sprints. So again, remember, you can have a slow start and then build up to your speed. You can do movements at a faster pace. So this is your tempo. If you speed up your movements, think of the Olympic lifts or even squatting, just doing that quickly. Plyometrics like box jumps. For quickness, this is going to be taking off into that sprint from a dead stop, reacting to a signal like a whistle or just a countdown of 3, 2, 1, go, just being able to take off quickly. For agility, it's things like cone drills, ladder drills, hurdles. There's also a reaction ball, so it's this like multi-sided ball, and you throw it against the wall and you don't know which way it's going to go, and you have to chase it. So also think of sports like racquetball, so that would be, reaction training. And those are, again, part of that is going to be required just to stay fit through your years and to stay safe. That'll definitely help with fall prevention, but it's not something that you have to train, especially the speed, unless your gait is really slow. There have been some studies that correlate slow gait and poor health. So if your gait is really slow, you want to pick that up. And of course, you can see how that would incorporate balance and strength. and core strength. So all of these things do overlap. So that was the last of the 6 components of fitness: speed, agility, and quickness. So look at your goals. What are your goals? Are they health? Are they fitness? Remember, health is just kind of like ground zero. It's the absence of disease. It's mediocrity. You're probably training more for fitness, and fitness means being fit, being prepared for what it is you want to do, and you want to do more than sit around on the couch. You want to be active. You want to have energy for your day. You want to, go on vacation and be able to take those long walks. You want to be able to have the energy to clean out your house, to downsize, to move. You want to keep up with your kids, your grandkids. So all of these things are going to be important for getting you past ground zero, to having more than just an okay life. So look at what's missing in your routine. These can also make your training more fun, less boring, because you can incorporate some other things in there. So if you want to look back at any of these, I did do a blog post on each of these. So if you just go to my website, aliciacrosstraining.com, and in the search box, search components, you'll see something that'll come up, and you can follow through and read about each of the components of fitness. And if you have a question about anything that I talked about in this video, post it in the comments and I will respond. And I'll see if I can share that picture of my standing leg lift where I only got it to 107 degrees, which I can get way more than that lying on my back. So I post live videos. I go live here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. So remember to like and share this video. If you have a question that you want me to cover in a future video, send me a message or post it here. And if you need any help incorporating any of these aspects into your routine, look at joining my next round of semi-private training that is kicking off the last week of this month at the Meta Center. So I'll have my training for seniors Mondays at 11 a.m. I will have my TRX. Remember, we talked about that covers a lot of the components here. That happens Tuesday at 4:15, and then general strength training where we're using everything, the TRX, the bands, some weights, body weight, that happens Thursdays at 1:30. And you can go to my website, aliciacrosstraining.com, and click on schedule, and you will see those in there. Or you can click on the Work With Me tab, and you can read more about what's included in semi-private sessions, and then click on the link to see which ones are happening right now. And of course, if you have questions, send me a message or post a comment, and I look forward to seeing you here next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Thanks. Bye.